Ready? I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for Stokes County Board of County Commissioners for July 10th, 2023 at 6 p.m. The first item on our agenda is the invocation, and Commissioner Wood will lead us in the invocation.
Precious Heavenly Father, thank you for the freedom we have to gather together. Thank you for the many blessings we have in this county. Watch over, guide us, and give us wisdom and leadership to lead this county. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. The next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion for that?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, with one amendment, if we could, at the bottom on action, resignation from Stokes Partnership for Children for me. After getting my last results from my cardiologist on my echocardiogram, he felt like I needed to give up one of my subcommittees. So could we put that as item C?
On action.
On action tonight. And then I'll turn it in to Amber tomorrow and she can pass it over to her. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion with that change.
I make a motion.
You make a motion, second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, the agenda's amended with that adjustment to it. Next item we have on the agenda is our public comments, and we have two folks signed up. First one is Dan Wolber. You come up, you have 4 minutes, and fire away.
Thank you.
Stand close to the microphone. You would.
That good? Yeah. My name is Dan Wolber. I'm from Danbury. I'm here to address the working draft of the revised noise ordinance, specifically item number 14 on the discharge of firearms. The current proposal, as written and based on whatever model or source might be used here, serves no useful purpose and is actually less effective than the current 30-year-old ordinance. It invites more problematic behavior, enforcement, and potential litigation in the future. The proposed ordinance vaguely restricts firearm use between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. This allows nighttime shooting depending on the season of up to 5 hours. Where these bullets being fired and to what level of noise are tax-paying landowning neighbors being subjected. Shooting ranges, civilian or law enforcement, are better regulated, and this proposal even contradicts reasonable hunting laws. The proposal encourages reckless behavior. Even the existing ordinance does not allow annoying or harassing shooting at any hour of night or day. Currently, patrol officers will make it clear that nighttime shooting is reckless and serves no purpose other than to harass or annoy. Sheriff Lemons has asked for ordinances that provide even greater clarity for his officers in the field, but this 11 to 7 at night provision, along with its ambiguous language, it makes their job more difficult and others unsafe. What does this have to do with noise, you may ask? Well, how many of you have heard at close range, day or night, modern day firearm activity in your neighborhood? Maybe you'll be spared, maybe not. Maybe you're fortunate enough to live inside city limits. Furthermore, firearms are a most convenient way to attract attention, annoy, or disturb the peace. Language also used in your document. Why are they granted exception day or night beyond fireworks, loudspeakers, animals, or vehicles? Why should any Stokes County resident not have reasonable quiet enjoyment of their home in respect to quality of life and property investment? Even loudspeakers, according to the document, are given a 150 feet proximity stipulation in regard to volume. How can there be no proximity stipulation to a neighboring resident's requirement for window rattling firearm noise? Just a couple more points. And what about loud, unsafe discharge in proximity to right-of-ways? These are not just loud noises. These are bullets flying in what direction. You cannot isolate firearm discharge noise from legal, safe berm shooting range, sports shooting range activity. Location and proximity are issues. Beyond the noise, there are safe and unsafe shooting areas. Item 14 allows most any type of firearm discharge from, noise from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and is totally open to interpretation after 11 p.m. This complicates rather than verifies constitutional rights. You cannot in this day and age expect civility and neighborly respect to set precedent. If ordinances are not clear and protective, litigation issues will not only be the burden of tax-paying landowners, but also law enforcement and the county board. So I respectfully request commissioners to review this ordinance and simply apply common sense compromises and protection. Do not just quickly apply whatever template is expedient without controversy. Problems exist now because of the ambiguity of the current outdated ordinance. But this new provision regarding firearms does more harm than good and does not reflect the knowledge of state ordinances or counties that have given fuller consideration to the issue. Please consider more models, the realities of law enforcement, and most important, the rights and safety of all neighborhoods in Stokes County. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. The next, our second speaker and final speaker is Zane Hill. He'll come up, Zane.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm Zane Hill. I'm with Dragon Glass Winery at 2182 Bethesda Church Road. Haven't been able to participate in any of the other meetings you've had, but the name Dragon Glass Winery has been brought up a few times, so I wanted to take the opportunity to tell you guys a little bit about Dragon Glass Winery. We're not just a party barn on the hill. We are a legitimate winery. We're licensed by the ABC as a wine producer. We grow our grapes in Stokes County. We produce our own wine. We have a winery produce it, bottle it, and bring it back for resale. So we're a wholesaler and a producer of wine. Also, the facility, we allow events such as weddings, receptions, high school reunions, birthday parties. The community uses our facility at very reasonable rates all the time. So it's not just a party place on weekends. We do have live entertainment. As most wineries do today, it's almost a necessity to do that, to bring in revenue, to bring people to the county that would typically go to Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point, wherever there's something going on. Over the 14 months that we've been open, our business has increased. We've been very happy for that. We're providing tax dollars to the county, to the state, but we do have live entertainment on weekends. And the bands that we bring are not just local whatever. We bring Legacy Motown Review, Jim Quick, some of the same bands you hear at Walnut Cove, The Cove, Blackman Amphitheater. These are high quality bands. And our bands have always played from 8 p.m. till 11. So there was a remark made by a gentleman, I'll refrain from saying names, that we go 6 or 7 hours. Totally untrue. You can look at our event schedule, past, present, and future. It's always been 8 p.m. till 11 p.m. The current ordinance says 12:01 a.m. We've always tried to be a good community citizen, respect the community, and we've always stopped our music at 11 o'clock. We never had any entertainment on Sunday out of respect for the neighbors and the community. We've always tried to refrain from having, excuse me, any loud music on Sunday. So I wanted to address a couple of those remarks that were made that were not true. We are a legitimate business. We run our winery. We have our the average age people that come there to dance and have a good time is probably 45 to 55 years old, some 82, some 25, right? I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I brought some pictures for anybody that hasn't
Yeah, you
seen
are.
our facility. If you would like to take a look at this, that's what the property looked like when we acquired it in 2019. And then you can kind of see throughout that what it looks like today, and we continue to spend money. We've spent a sizable amount of money to make this business work and to be a contributor to the county. We consider ourselves an asset to the county, not a nuisance, to be honest. I think we've got a good thing. And others, like a lot of the other venues in the county, there's wedding venues all over the county. There's businesses that have live entertainment. It's a necessity to make ends meet, to be honest. And we just ask that you consider that as you go through the noise ordinance. Specifically, we'd like to ask you to make it minimum 11 p.m. I think that's a reasonable time to stop any loud music. And I sent you guys a letter. I don't know if you got it, but it's
Yeah,
more
we
specific
read it.
and it addresses most everything that I wanted to talk about. I even did a 10-minute video of a dB meter I personally purchased, went to the edge of our property line, recorded 10 minutes of music. 1 millisecond, I think it peaked at 71 dBs. That's the equivalent of a washing machine in your home, according to all accounts that I can research. So we just ask for that. We ask for you to consider the businesses in the county as you do this and make it fair. We see the need for legitimate noise ordinance and enforceable noise ordinances. We see that, but we also see the need to be able to operate, to run our business, and to help out the county. And the county needs a place for people to go. And so thank y'all. Thank you very much, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Zane. We appreciate you coming and sharing comments with us.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is comments from the managers and commissioners, and we'll start with Commissioner Mendenhall.
Thank you. And it's good to see everybody here tonight. Thank you for coming out. I'm not going to drag things out tonight. For everybody that's watching on YouTube, we're glad to have you. And it's been a beautiful day today after a rainy past couple days. But thanks for being here tonight, and we're glad to have you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner.
Thank you. And so I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight, and we look forward to hearing from our citizens, our business people. We do want to have equal. I guess we want to have quality businesses and also provide quality care, or I guess infringing the liberty of the people that have noise ordinance issues. But I certainly am in favor of not going overboard. We certainly want to respect everybody's rights, and as we go forward. I just want to take a few minutes to make some comments. They're follow-up comments, and in no way am I expecting an answer tonight or given, because I'm just one vote on the board. But I think that since December 4th, when I was sworn into the board, we completed a lot of things, and I think we accomplished a lot, and I think we've asked the right questions. But I also know how it is we've went through quite a bit of change. We went through a transition of a county manager to an interim county manager, and what I always like to do, I think it's good business practice that we go back and we just kind of make sure that everyone nods head and everything, and we vote, and it's adopted. But I just want to make sure that just some little tidbits that the stuff that we agreed to has been accomplished. So just start out with, first of all, and this really hits home with, what we went through with our prior budget, with the adoption of that, is we need to make sure that we adopt a mission statement, in my opinion. I mean, this would all come down to a vote. I'm just saying what I think is best practice and standard in effective organizations, whether it be government or business. We need us to adopt strategic planning every year. We can't continue to go budget to budget. When you go budget to budget, then you just prioritize going just to get to that point, get it over with, and then we go on about our business. And I feel that there has to be direction. You can't continue to be reactive all the time. Some things you have to be reactive because that's the nature of the business, but you can't do business like that all the time. You got to have a plan. Another thing is something that's very, very basic that has never been done here, but I thought we agreed to do it, and that's an organizational chart. So in other words, the citizens, they need to know what comprises county government. It shouldn't be a guessing game. It shouldn't be rolling the dice to try to know who to contact and who reports to who, and I mean, ultimately, we all report to the citizens of Stokes County. But it needs to be, in my opinion, and we voted for it, but I can't find it anywhere on our county website. So that needs to be corrected. Another thing that we voted on and we approved is we went through identifying public record requests policy. That was done. Another thing that we voted on and agreed to do, that we would give training to all of our employees on the public record request, and we would also document the public requests that we do get, and then if we needed to possibly research it or review of what kind of requests we're getting, we would know. And something that helps with that is that if we get a number of public record requests, I mean, again, why be reactive? It should be posted on there. Look, we're getting a lot of this, like frequent questions, and here's the question, and here's the answer, and then it doesn't tie up our personnel having to answer the same question over and over and over again. But again, that's already been voted on, and I don't see it anywhere. No one is documented to me that our employees, our staff, have been trained on what statute said and what our policy is. Next thing is, and Keith will like this because he brings it up all the time. We're still waiting on a county manager job description. It's you can't make this stuff up. But I would hope I would get support at some point in time from the board that we set a deadline, and if no one can do it, I can do it. I don't have a problem doing that. The county, we have to have a professional development program. We cannot continue to go on the assumption or just to go on the goodwill that people that come to work for the county are being trained and have a career progression. It ties down to when people retire or people quit, then everything comes to the board all of a sudden to try to appoint somebody to be the interim and come up with a contract to pay, to give them this and we do this and we do that. When if you have a professional development program and you have a policy that goes into effect on when people are automatically made interim, it after so many. I mean, it goes so smooth, and it shouldn't involve 5 people setting up here every single time we have to do that. We have to continue the training. The one thing that I feel is very, very, very important is we got to have leadership. And leadership can be an official leadership, like say the county manager, or maybe it's a department head. But there's also unofficial leadership, and unofficial leadership is it may not be a department head level, but it's somebody in that department, in that area, that has the will to, whether it's in improving the training or to make sure that policies are followed. And probably the biggest thing is, when part of that leadership is you have to have critical thinking skills. In other words, people like to associate themselves with people that think alike, and I've never liked that as a leader. And as going up in the chain of command, I always spoke my mind, but I also spoke my mind and I backed up with solutions. Anybody can say we have a problem, but if you have a problem, to me, you should come with a solution as well. That's a starting point. Communication skills have to be prioritized. Again, it's part of training. And where the communication skills are coming in is what we need to, again, we haven't voted on this, so this is just my opinion, but we need to know through the manager that our staff, so when they get complimented, when they do a good job and someone makes a compliment, then they need to be recognized and we need to know it. And then also, when we're getting complaints from citizens on, and again, we follow the public policy on personnel and stuff. We don't need, or at least I don't need names. I need departments. So if we're having internal complaints, in other words, if you have an employee that constantly, is complaining on another employee, then that's an internal side. And then external is the citizens that come in. And again, it's up to the managers to dig down and find out to make sure that, where there's smoke, there's fire. If you have somebody that is constantly getting complaints, then I think that, that's where the professionals come in that work here, and you dig down with HR and you make sure that it's not a training issue, and you make sure, or maybe someone's having a bad day every day, and we need to find out, what's going on, because the work environment needs to be professional, and the work environment, needs to be to where you hate to come to work because of one person or 2 people that seem to can't get along with anybody. Another very important factor that goes along with that is I think we need to know how many grievances are filed. So when disciplinary action is given and people don't agree with it, they have the right to file a grievance. And we need to make sure that that policy is followed, and I think that needs to be tracked as well. And over time, I think you'll see a difference. We have to increase the use of technology to improve the service and
efficiency. We're in a point where we're in transition right now. You know, we've got some people retiring in IT, and IT runs throughout the whole county government. It's everything from efficiency to if you're trying to get a permit, or if you're trying to get your septic tank approved or inspected or whatever, to even what I feel is very, very, very important is it leads to safety issues with our public safety. Our public safety officers, employees, it needs to be paramount that our IT department is on the top of their game, and they provide the training, they provide the make sure that the most current hardware, software is available, and the information should not be locked up to where it's just certain people can turn the key to do it. If we can't, if we can't trust employees out there who are out there saving lives at a wreck, doing CPR or putting IVs in, to deputies that are out there doing traffic stops and going to calls, if emergency services getting called out on drownings or lost children, all the information that we have in the county government and in the state government and at the feds needs to be at their access, whether it's 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon. We need to recognize and reward employees who exceed expectations. For 8-9 years or whatever, when I first come on the board, I find out that we don't do performance evaluations. That's ridiculous. And of course, then some people, when they say, well, the reason that we don't do performance evaluations is because there was no money tied to them, so why bother to do it? That's ridiculous too. I'll tell you why you should do it. Because whether or not there's no money or not, you still want to be able to rate your employee and make sure they're doing a decent job. I mean, certainly we should have enough pride here in this county with our workforce and serving our citizens that we want to do the best that we can with what we have. Now, I agree that we do need to have merit pay. And that's something that we need to start working on now. We shouldn't wait till budget time comes again next year and then try and scramble. We need to start working on that right now. Everything from the projections, from our finance and HR, of what's the cost, what's the recurring cost forward, and also what the measures will be. HR is going to be critical in the organization and the tracking of the performance evals. And then of course, that leads to our HR director is going to retire at the end of the year. And I know we got budget, we got money problems, but at some point in time, we're also going to have to make sure that HR is up and running and is capable, because all the evaluations are going to go through HR. And if the evaluations aren't done right, if the evaluations can't be properly evaluated and the figures plugged in, then everything comes to a stall. And then we don't want that. So we know that's coming. We need to start working on that now. Our volunteer fire departments. We need to understand what their needs are, and funding, and in terms of making sure that they have the proper equipment, proper training, and we find a way, because we already know we've got a problem. Monday through Friday during the day, if there's a rescue, if there's a fire,
we have a hard time getting enough volunteers to jump on a truck to go somewhere. We know the problem. I mean, I've only been here since December 4th, and I knew it January 4th, that that's the problem. And it's going to take funding. So, when we talk funding, we need more revenue. And we just went through the budget. No one likes to raise taxes. I don't like paying more taxes. But we've got to look at ways to increase revenue. And I don't think that the property owners here in Stokes County need to, everything doesn't need to be on their backs. But at the same time, we've got to be able to pay, and I'm just talking about the volunteer fire departments, but nothing's free. People, we are lucky that we have the volunteers that we have. They're dedicated people. They're raising families. They're just trying, they're trying to make a living. And a lot of them, they don't work in Stokes County. They're in Winston, they're in Greensboro, they're somewhere else. So during the week, during the day, we've got an issue. So we got to prioritize that this year. Again, we can't wait until July 2nd to start talking about it. We need to start talking about it now. With economic development, we've got to retain and grow our local businesses, and obviously attract other businesses too, the right businesses. We need to attract businesses. But the local businesses that are currently here, we don't need to discard them. We need to help them. So if they want to grow their business, and at the very least stay in business, then I think it's paramount for us to show loyalty to them and make sure that we can do whatever we can so they can achieve their dreams. And at the same time, it helps Stokes County with revenue. And we're going through a evaluation period. We have an interim economic development director, and I think he's done a great job. Eddie McGee and Tori Mabe has really stepped up and done a great job. But I'm still waiting on a report on how we move forward with the economic development department. I mean, they've done well, but there's more to it. And who says they're going to be here forever? Or even if they want to continue, especially with Eddie's doing 2 jobs with the Arts Council and doing this. But so I would like to see a report, the recommendations of how we go forward. Economic development is the backbone that's going to power the future of Stokes County and on how we respond with what we can do and what we can't do in terms of quality of life. One of the things that comes into play, comes into context, is that we have to have on the functionality of our departments, of our staff, we need to know that the programs that we fund and the programs that they're doing, we need to know, and this is for the board to decide through the manager, whether it be monthly or it be quarterly, but we need to know what they're doing, what's working, what's not. And I know so people sometimes get tired of hearing me say that I look at statistics, and I do. That's what I look at. So if you got 2 things, you got statistical data, which is performance based. The second thing is you can have feel good programs.
I don't got any problem with feel-good programs as long as we got the money and we're not having to cut the basic stuff. But we do feel-good programs, that's great. But right now, we don't have a lot of money. I tried to raise taxes this last budget thing to start solving some of these issues, and it didn't go well. So we need to concentrate on what's going to work. And I'm going to depend on the county manager to make sure that that is done and it's concise and that we can show either progression or regression. My last few things here is our emergency services. I've already talked about the volunteer fire department, but I'll start with the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office, we have to be able to support our sheriff to give him the tools, the equipment, and we've got to somehow find a way for our pay for our deputies and our detention officers that they're at least competitive and they're in the arena or close to the arena. If we can't afford law enforcement, we got a problem. If we can't afford paramedics, EMS, we got a problem. Now, I'm not saying that it has to be the best paying. I think that it's got to be somewhere in the middle to start. We can't, if you continually be the lowest paid, you're going to hire people, they're going to stay until they get hired at a larger agency that pays more money and they're gone. Same thing with EMS. We want to keep the good people, and we want to make sure that we have a quality of life. But we also have to look and make sure that we can't just say, well, we're gonna throw $1 million at it and we get nothing in return, because the eternity just doesn't work well. I mean, so the money we do spend, we got to make sure that we get the best bang for our buck. And the last thing I'm going to say, just to wrap this up, is that Stokes County is a great place to live. It is. But we've got to get the word out. You have to have branding and you have to have marketing. Your branding and marketing cannot be all the time to say when something is a little bit below average or almost non-existent, you can't just say, just Stokes County. That's just the way we do things here. We can't do that. We have to have pride in everything that we do in this county, in this organization. Pride. If you don't have pride, and again, it goes back to what I said earlier, if you just want to talk about what the problems are and you can't offer me a solution, or at least a starting point, that's all you're doing is just, you're not helping any. You just want to complain. So marketing and branding, and be proud to wear that, whether that star is for the sheriff's office, or proud when you pull up and it's got Stokes County EMS on it. And I will say one thing more, because I just thought of something to give an example. When I went and took a tour of the emergency management garage, or not center, but where the equipment is stored. And I know what it's like. When I first started in law enforcement, we didn't have a lot of money in Fayetteville. And we did a lot of things just to be able to, we knew what needed to be done, but we had a hard time getting the right equipment. But the equipment that I saw in there, from the drones, from the the command post that's in there, to the boat, you could tell that is first-rate equipment, and that's something that Stokes County should be proud of. Everybody in Stokes County should be proud of that. And from experience, I can tell you, when you're at an incident, when you're at a scene, and you got an incident command being set up from different agencies, and you're calling into specialties on mutual aids from other departments, there's nothing better than seeing the equipment rolling in that has Stokes County on it that's top notch. And what that does is that sets the perception that Stokes County, and I'm just using EMS as an example in this, has got their act together and that they're capable, and so you have respect. Take it the other way, and you're pulling a horse trailer in for a command post, and people see you rolling in. It's natural to where you're thinking, oh Lord, what are we gonna, there's gonna be a hindrance and not a help. So what we have to do is, we can't always say that we're not good, because there's a lot of cases where we're excellent, but the public's got to know. The public's got to know, and that's where I'm going to need the manager's help. What we talked about before, of getting the good stuff out to the citizens of Stokes County, that hey, we are capable, we're well trained, we have the equipment. So it's not all bad, but we have to make sure we do it through all areas. And I know I'm over my time, but that's it. Thank you.
Keith, you got comments, questions?
Just welcome. How's that for short and sweet?
Yeah, I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting, and a couple things that Commissioner Chandler said that I'll piggyback off of a little bit. We do have some, with the budget approved, some very new, better technology things on the horizon that I'm very excited about. That we're going to be rolling out some new software for planning that's going to make it much easier for contractors and for the people in planning and zoning to do their job and make it more efficient and better. Less trips to Danbury for contractors in the future, I think, with the new software, and that's exciting. Some new payroll software that'll make things better and hopefully easier for HR once all the kinks and everything get worked out of all that new software too. So there are some things that we're excited about that I feel like we're moving forward on. Another issue that we've been looking at recently is we've had some citizens concerned about some of the dead areas with cell reception in Sandy Ridge and other places that we've been checking into, and Glenn Knox has been looking into, and so I think we finally got a meeting with Verizon, which was exciting for them to come to the table to talk to us about. This is a safety issue. I mean, if somebody needed to call 911 and all they have is a cell phone in that area, they're in trouble. And so that's something.
It's the 17th at 10 a.m. if anybody's in interest.
Yeah, any commissioners want to come to that, but that's a step in the right direction. And it's like Commissioner Chandler said, we do need to have more good news. When we were on. When I was on the school board and Commissioner Mendenhall was superintendent, we did a good news segment at every board meeting where we recognized somebody, at least once a month, maybe not at the work session, but, where we had different, and we've had that here with different things at times, but not as much tooting our own horn as we probably should with some of the things that we're doing well and some employee spotlights and things. So, we started doing that with the DSS board at each meeting, where we bring in different employees to tell us what they're doing in their area and giving us an update. Gets us to know more of the employees, and it lets us know the jobs that they're doing and what they're struggling with or what they're doing well with over there. So that's a good thing. I will point out that there is a public meeting about the Shepherd Mill Bridge project over the Dan River, and it is, in case you haven't seen it in the Stokes News, it's July 18th from 4 to 7 at the Arts Place, and the public is invited to attend that. It says there won't be a presentation, but I guess you can get your questions answered on that bridge replacement. Also, just would like to welcome the guests that are here, Derek Edwards from the Stokes Y and Jen DeRuyter from Camp Haynes and Gretchen from the library. You painfully sits through a lot of these meetings, but we appreciate it. And Derek Vickers and Tammy Lilly and from Exodus Ministries and Laura from our Substance Use Committee. I'm excited to hear what y'all have to present in a little bit. That's all.
Amber, you got any comments,
Just
questions?
welcome to everybody here. Thank you for being here and participating in our process. And thank you to those watching online as well. Please let me know if you ever need anything, and I'll be happy to answer your questions or help you with anything that you need.
And I would wrap up by welcoming everybody that's here and online also. Especially our two speakers tonight, we're working hard on this noise thing to try to come up with a balanced and reasonable approach, and it's very helpful to get input from the public on this and any issues that we're working on. I'm especially interested in the winery. I'm anxious to visit out there. I hadn't been there before, but I will be shortly. So we appreciate people that make investments like you guys have done in the county because it is important, and it echoes what Brad was talking about with our need for business and to fill out our tax base and kind of take some of the effort off or some of the expense off the property owner. So thanks again for coming and doing that. We have been through a tough budget. Our fund balance is down around 11-something%, I believe. And we are definitely, and I'll echo also from Commissioner Chandler, we're definitely going to have to work on the revenue side of the equation next year. We're to the point that I don't think we'll have any choice. And when we do that, we will increase our revenues, of course. But I can assure you that those revenues will be targeted to the places where we get the best return on investment. And we're offering again an opportunity for the citizens to vote on a 1/4-cent sales tax. If that goes through, that will help put a little bit of relief on the property owners. And then we've got an occupancy tax that'll help a little bit as well, this being approved. But we got some pretty tough budget years coming up to accomplish the transition of technology and to make this county government more efficient. So hopefully at some point we can start to reduce the number of personnel it takes, because that is our largest expense, is all the items associated with personnel. So with that, thanks again for being here. Our next item on the agenda is conflicts of interest statement, which I'll read. Before moving further, does any board member have a conflict of interest with any items on the agenda for tonight, or one that could be perceived as a conflict of interest? No. Okay. The next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. Could I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion, questions on the consent agenda? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. The next item, we move to our discussion agenda, and the first item on there is the tax office agenda and update, and Tax Administrator Richard Brim will present that to us. Thanks, Richard.
Good evening.
Stephen.
I'm here, normally I come at the 2 o'clock meeting, but I'm here today to do the annual settlement for fiscal year 22-23. We had another great collection year. The first 13 pages of the report you see is going to tie into our yearly collections. Pleased to report that we exceeded budget amounts for our school operating, county, and education fund by $171,494 from what was budgeted, so that's great. Would like to draw your attention to page 13. It talks about the prior year collections information, interest and deferred. Just want to let you know that there's not an error there when you see the deferred being collection rate at 336%. Deferred is hard to predict. We predicted we'd collect about $30,000. We collected $100,804. And the main reason for that was the $51,000 rollback bill that we did for the education forest that was purchased by the state going out of Wonet Cove towards Pine Hollow off 311 and Pike Plant Road. So that's not an error. We did exceed budget by a little over $70,000 in that category. Also, our prior year collections for county and school operating, we exceeded by a little over $31,000, and our penalties and interest category $7,347. The next item is labeled subject the annual county settlement. It indicates that the tax office has delivered all the prepayments to our Chief Accounting Officer, Lisa Lankford, in the amount of $73,939.67. You'll also find a resolution settlement pertaining to the delinquent property taxes. Back in February, I brought that information to the board for the 2022 delinquent taxes for real property. At that time, we had 3,241 accounts with a principal balance of $1,439,472.91. The ladies in collection have got that down based on July 1 numbers to 1,281 delinquent accounts, the principal balance of $501,227.66. The next page you'll see a spreadsheet that shows all the delinquent taxes for the county broke down by property type and tax district. And then the next page we have the ordinance of compliance. And then we have the report of insolvents for real property. In this year's settlement, you'll find 3 parcels that are insolvent. All 3 of these properties were county surplus property that we sold during fiscal year 22-23. The next page shows there's no personal property insolvents for fiscal year 22-23. The next item is the personal property collections report that's broke down by tax district. And then the next item is the resolution that orders the insolvent amount for the 2022 being entered into the minutes and accepted as insolvent amounts. Orders the tax liens for 2022 property taxes for the purpose of collection to be recharged to the tax administrator. Orders the settlement for delinquent prior years to be entered to the minutes, and that the uncollected balance of said taxes be recharged to the Stokes County Tax Administrator for the purpose of collection, and orders that the 2022 property tax settlement by the Stokes County Tax Administrator be accepted in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 105-373E. And then the final item I have is a charge to collect fiscal year 23-24 taxes, authorizing the Stokes County Tax Administrator to collect the current annual 2023 property taxes for all tax districts, including the county and all municipalities. I'm requesting that the annual settlement resolution for fiscal year 22-23 and the order to collect for fiscal year 23-24 be placed on the July 24th consent agenda, because we plan on mailing our tax bills out on July 28th in order to give all the tax-paying citizens the entire month of August to take advantage of the 2% discount that this board grants to them. That's all I have on the settlement. I would like to give the board just a quick update on the progress of the 2025 reappraisal. Hard to believe in a little over 17 months the reappraisal will take effect. The revaluation team is currently out in the field conducting field reviews, primarily focusing on qualified sales that's sold, verifying the validity of our property record card data, as the qualified sales are the backbone for producing a solid reevaluation. We are also reviewing parcels that have been flagged by our GIS mapping department as having improvements that are currently not indicated on our property record cards. They're able to do this by comparing the 2018 orthos and our new orthos by scanning them over top of each other, and they're flagging any differences and giving them to our appraisers to do field work to get the information correct. While it's still premature to make a final conclusion as the amount of increase the property valuation will bring to the county, I can say it will be significant, barring a tremendous downturn in the market. And the revaluation is on track, and I plan to present to the board with a detailed report concerning the 2025 reappraisal in January of next year. And then finally, lastly, on behalf of the tax office employees, I'd like to thank each board member for passing a budget that did not take away from the employees. I know it was a hard budget year. We recognize that our health insurance is being paid as a huge benefit. We also recognize that you kept our 2% longevity in the budget, and that in fairness, the board elected to change the way longevities are calculated, not based on the starting pay of the position, but using your current salary. That's all I have.
Okay, board members, Cassandra, you have any questions?
I don't. It's a good report. Thank you so much. Good information.
Mr. Wood?
It's always the best.
Thanks. Good report.
Very good report, and thank you for your comment about employees not losing benefits or anything. You knew, you in the tax building, if anybody knows, it was a tough budget year.
Oh, absolutely.
We did our very best, so thank you for that comment. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is significant in 2025, was it significant the last one we had, or significant more, this mean more significant than the last one?
It means a lot more significant
Than the last one?
It does.
I
It
thought
does.
the last one was pretty stiff.
Yeah, and it really does. And we're not the only counties in the same boat. Unlike Brad, I look at statistics because a lot of times statistics, if you look at them the right way, paint a good picture. And all the other counties is 2021 revaluation year counties. I just wanted to see where we measured up. And, you know, we're in a good spot compared to them. Everybody's in the same boat. Properties is selling high. You know, we'll monitor it. We've got a lot of good sales. And we're just going to adjust to the market. Whether that means we leave things flat or we have to raise it, whatever we need to raise it, we'll do that, because we've got the information to back it up. We know what the property. If our data's right, I'm very confident we know what your property's worth.
You already know what the percentage is going to be. You have an idea.
Well,
It's not going to go there.
You don't have to answer that question.
we probably won't get into that now. Maybe in 6 months we'll have a better picture, and I'll be prepared. And
Projected percentage.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks for your report. We appreciate it.
Commissioner, can we get like a 5-minute break, because we're going to get ready to get into some
Yeah, sure.
in-depth
5-minute recess. Okay, I'll call our meeting back to order. And the next item on our agenda is the Substance Use and Treatment Committee recommendations. Derek Vicker is going to present that, I think. How you doing, Derek?
Good evening, commissioners, ladies and gents, audience. Thanks for coming. The recommendation list. We started with the first thing was a media communication education campaign. What do you want me to go through it? Do you want me to take questions? How should I approach this?
Whatever you want to do.
Cool. The media communication education campaign. This isn't in your sheet. These are just some of my notes. This type of engagement can be accomplished digitally using multiple platforms and channels. You can do print media like mailers or flyers or newspaper or other sorts of one-way communication. One-way communication is where you're giving out a message to folks and they're really not able to communicate back. It's kind of like click it or ticket. Or yes, sir.
Can you do social media?
Yes, sir.
That budget.
That's where some of this would. That's where some of this would come from. You're talking about through my work and through the agency I work for. We've done a lot of things with the Stokes News and the Mount Airy News Group, and so the Mount Airy News Group provides a lot of tools that can help us drill down to specific zip code areas and specific areas of Stokes where any of the money that is put into a communication campaign, like the Lock Your Meds campaign or a Good Samaritan campaign, can be drilled down to where it only is delivered to Stokes residents or folks inside the zip code. So your money's not lost. If it's oversaturating an area, it can be drilled down to make better use of your dollars. This recommendation can be completed in conjunction with another recommendation, the Harm Reduction Education Substance Use Disorder Prevention Kiosk, and raising awareness about the storage, disposal, or other measures related to negative outcomes related to medication misuse or substance misuse. That's an essential tool when you're talking about best practices. If you look at the National Institute of Health, Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, some of their best practices involve a communication campaign of getting the word out there. The next recommendation, B, was a workforce development for prescribers, dispensers, healthcare staff, and frontline workers. And so that would be, that's a recurring cost. This is something that provides mandatory required trainings for our medical staff, whether it is at the health department, whether it is through LifeBright, any of the private practices, any of the Atrium Health, Novant Health that are in the county. Folks who are prescribers have to have mandatory trainings to keep their licensure. And if you're working with them to help identify issues of opioid use disorder or substance use disorder, providing these trainings to them is a benefit. It is something that otherwise they would have to go out of their way to schedule. And some of these can be virtual, it can be online, or it can be in person. And that changes the cost a little bit. But we're also talking about dispensers, providing education to our dispensers, not just our doctors and nurse practitioners and oral care places. We're also talking about dispensers who are putting medications in the hands of folks. Folks trust their dispenser, their pharmacist, about as much as they trust their doctor, because their pharmacist understands a lot of things about them, height, age, weight, what else they're taking, any other family dynamics or other dynamics related to that. And so that's why this was proposed. There is a needs assessment that does need to be completed for this. That could be very brief. That could be something done through a Google Doc. It could be something done on a piece of paper. Because of the variety of trainings that are available, there are 10, just related to opioid use disorder, there are 10 modules that are offered by the Northwest Area Health Education Center, which is at Wake Forest Baptist Health, or Wake Forest Health Center. I get them mixed up. Moving down to recommendation C, a mobile prevention education unit as a one-time cost, $60,000. One of the tenets of prevention, when you're talking about prevention, is meeting your community members where they are. And so a device like this, an apparatus like this, can be deployed at local community level festivals. You're talking about deploying this in the communities where some of these areas are hardest hit by some of these negative outcomes. This is something where it is a benefit for law enforcement, for first responders. It is an ability for them to reach populations otherwise aren't reached. Maybe somebody doesn't get on Facebook. Maybe somebody doesn't read the newspaper. They may go to their local festival so they can go to food trucks or support craft vendors, food vendors, and that's where they would be able to see something like this and engage with professionals, engage with the professionals who work in the county. And here's some best practices, here's some solutions for some of the stuff that is going on. Moving on to D, Operation Medicine Drop. And so I have some information about this. I have some numbers because we're talking about adding 3 more drop boxes in the county by 2038. Since 2019, there have been 1,835 pounds or 1.3 million doses. So when we talk about these drop boxes at the Sheriff's Office, Walnut Cove License Plate Agency, and the King Police Department, they weigh these things. They weigh what they collect. They used to count it out by pill, but they started weighing it because it's so much. In 2019, they collected over 500 pounds. In 2020, which was a COVID year, it was 392 pounds. 2021, coming back from COVID, 476 pounds. And then 2022, 452 pounds. And so you're talking about hundreds of pounds of prescription, over-the-counter, controlled substances, controlled medications that are collected and safely disposed of. Making these available to folks in the county is important. It is something that is costly because you're talking about installing the box, but you also have to install a security system because you are housing potentially substances that are controlled substances. That's why it is listed at $8,000 per drop box. And that cost could fluctuate depending on the location and the equipment that needs to be installed. E, hire 2 peer support specialists. And so there are numerous papers and studies that show how important peer support specialists are in the lives of folks who are dealing with addiction, with their families, with they themselves, and incorporating themselves back into society. Peer support specialists are invaluable. Laura Bullens can speak on it more, but hiring 2 peer support specialists, at least 2, was something that could be considered. We did want to suggest that there would be consideration for hiring practices and policies because some folks who may be qualified as a certified peer support specialist may not pass the drug screen unless they have the specific prescription provided, which I don't think would be an issue. But if we're talking about someone, if you're talking about checking their backgrounds, someone who may have an undesirable flag on their background check that was 5 years ago, they may have had 5 years of sobriety, 5 years of clean, and then it's still on their record. That's something that should be considered if you're talking about hiring peer support specialists. F, a facilitator coordinator for prevention service providers. So there was discussion about this at our meeting in June about either this being an outside hire, someone who would come in and would have to have benefits, would have to have 401k, would have to have new hire practices involved with them, or this could be something that is delegated to some folks who are already on payroll, which falls under what Commissioner Chandler was talking about with merit-based pay, where this would be something that they are able to support, oversee, enhance. It is something that is done at every level of some of the things that I work with as far as grants go. You have to have oversight, you have to have enforcement, you have to have direction. And so that's where this could come from. If there was the option to utilize current Stokes County staff or contract any of these services as far as facilitating and coordinating, that opens up the flexibility in the budget, the flexibility of the recommendations, where you can provide further funding for necessary approaches like transportation, workforce development or training, GED classes, and housing stipends. So there's some flexibility with F that if you choose to go a different way, F can kind of open up the door for some of the other things. Maybe instead of hiring 2 peer support specialists, you can have 2.5. If you wanted to enhance some of the transportation budget, because transportation is a barrier for many folks in the county who are afflicted with this, that's something you can do. Also, workforce development and workforce training through the Forsyth Tech campus over on Dodgetown Road. Moving down to G, harm reduction, education, and substance use disorder prevention kiosks. And in your proposal, in your suggestions, it says add 3 kiosks by 2038. Kiosks are around $8,000 per as a one-time cost, and then materials around $10,000 a year as a recurring cost. And we've talked about best practices. Per the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, best practices involving substance use issues specifically related to opioid use disorder involve the availability of Narcan and naloxone. Additionally, secure storage boxes, at-home disposal kits, education materials, wound care items, and assorted one-way communication information can be provided at this kiosk. So you're not just talking about Narcan. You're talking about a lot of other things that can impact positively the lives of folks who are impacted by this. To note, these devices should be installed where they're accessible while also providing security and monitoring. This isn't something that you'd set out like a blessing box. This would be something that would need a little more oversight, a little more control. For H, we have indirect services. It's listed as $20,000. That can be allocated to support previously listed services. And the same thing with contracted services at I. That can also be allocated to support previously listed services. And then you have the cost breakdown, which talks about annual recurring costs, and then your one-time costs. When you add everything up and you break it out per year, it's $260,000 per year for the next 15 years, for a total of $4,010,000.
Is that 4 million or 3 million?
4 million. We already have if your numbers are looking a little off, we've got 762,000 already. We should have access to 762,000. Is that what it is?
I got it here.
I'm not the numbers guy. This was the numbers and everything was developed by myself, Laura Bullens with community paramedic, Mina Kajuria with Bi Health, Wanda Pierman, substance use liaison with DSS, Jonna Cheek. I forget her title, but she's with the school system and she works with students and parents and trying to connect, make those connections and bridge those gaps. Tammy Parton, health director, and Jordan Hemmings from Tabor.
Got it. I got it now. Thank you.
Cool.
All right. Board members, you have questions? I'll start with you, Commissioner Chandler.
Got a couple. I'll just go down the same order.
I'm with you. I'm on page 1.
And just as a disclaimer, I mean, I just want to clarify some stuff, and I know you put a lot of work. You and your committee have put a lot of work on this, and it's. I think it's a good start, and I just want to. And some good ideas in here. I just want to kind of maybe probe a little bit, and I won't try to tie up too much time hogging the whole thing. Maybe we need to start with
You go ahead.
with Commissioner Minna.
You can ask all the questions and we won't have.
It's like I told him when we first looked at it, I say, we got to start the conversation. So, it's not like we got to put this on action or vote on it at the next meeting or anything. I think it's just for our information so we can start the conversation. So.
And I'm up here and I'm talking. It wasn't just me, but I am the guy who got chosen to stand up here. So it's okay. And I'd love to have this conversation because, like Commissioner Cox said, this conversation needs to be started. So please, Commissioner Chandler.
So for the under the media communication education campaign, it's $25,000 a year, and it's reoccurring. So, I mean, by reading this, that's just nothing but prevention, right?
No, this could also be awareness about the Good Samaritan laws. This could be Narcan training. This could be any type of engagement that you're having where you're increasing the knowledge of your attendees. So it doesn't necessarily have to be prevention. This could be something that just raises awareness about the issue overall. Because if it's secure storage, okay. If it's secure appropriate disposal, okay. If you're talking about Narcan, if you're talking about signs and symptoms, if you're talking about wanting to engage the public and make them aware of the issue and what they can do to help make change, that does fall under prevention. But you can also use it as anything that falls under education, whether it's when I work with folks, I talk to people and I tell them about people who are this tall living in their house, and I talk to them about people that are this tall. When you're talking about some of these things, it can be birth to 99. Your audience can be a wide variety. It doesn't necessarily have to be prevention. It could be along the lines that are focused on opioid use disorder and things that fall under the scope of the opioid settlement.
Yeah, if $25,000 a year, if we're just doing, and nothing against prevention, we have to have prevention, but there's also a lot of other areas that's already in play with prevention. So, but I just want to, my recommendation would be also look at the other facets of the treatment, harm reduction. And then the tag off that is, and you should have, in your experience in doing the mass communication, the media, in terms of prevention, I mean, how do you gauge what's successful? In other words, so when you start a program, so say to a certain age group or to a certain geographic area, and so you spend money and you push that media out. So how do you know that you're getting results?
So it depends on what your goal is. So if you do decide to open a new drop box in the northern end of the county,
I'm talking about this. Yeah, just the media.
No, that's right.
Communication.
You're pushing out media. You're pushing out notifications. You're pushing out education about a certain area of the county. You can check the drop box numbers. You can see what is being brought in, what is being collected every month. But if you're talking about the actual route itself, Matter News Group provides detailed analysis on some of your posts and what you're doing, what you're engaging. You can target down to, like I said, the zip code. You can target down to anyone in the county who is in that zip code and is on that service. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be Facebook. You're talking about over the top, which is if you have Hulu, you can pay $5 and you see ads every commercial break, or you can pay $15 and you have no ads. This type of media communication can be targeted at those folks. And so you're going to hear impressions. They're going to monitor and they're going to say, we'll give you, for example, I bought something for Yadkin County the other day, and they said for the rest of this month and then into the month of August, we're going to get 25,000 impressions, which means they are pushing it out 25,000 times. Whether it's the same person seeing it 15 times or it's 15 people seeing it once, you're going to see that many impressions. If you're talking about wanting to see metrics and wanting to see data, that would come from collecting it at Dropbox sites. You're talking about trainings, if there is an increase in trainings, if you're talking about promoting peer support specialists, if you're talking about wanting to engage folks in different areas of the county and pushing some of this stuff out, you can tell by the people who show up what comes out.
So let me ask you this. So what about our community paramedics? Was that something where they could fit in with the education and of prevention and harm reduction?
Absolutely. But you're also talking about your volunteer firefighters. I go to speak volunteer fire departments every other month. You're talking about providing them with the tools necessary to get information out. So if the education campaign involves providing them with a lockbox, providing them with Narcan, providing them with best practices on how to engage community members, whether it's on a call or it's at a cookout at someone's house. If I'm over at Amber's house for a cookout and I see she's got her pills laying out on the kitchen counter, I'd say, Amber, that's really not a good place for them. If you are talking about education, increasing education, increasing the skill set of not only the community paramedics and the volunteer firefighters, but the community members in our county, that's important. I think that's important. That's one of the things we discussed about. And these numbers, this is a way to get to $4,010,000. So if there was a discussion amongst yourselves, because the county commissioners have the end say in all this, if they said, you know what, we'd rather just spend $15,000, take that $10,000, see if we can get some more training, more workforce development for our first responders in any category.
All right,
not
that's good.
just-
Okay, you get my point.
Yes, sir.
You're flexible. I don't know if we need $25,000, but I get your point. And then, but what I just want to make sure is you're including our resources that we already have here in Stokes County.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's not that we include them and make sure they're part of the routine.
Capitalize on them.
Yeah,
really,
right,
because we're
right,
already,
right. Okay, all right.
For sure.
So, go to B, real quickly. I'm just going to be honest with you. The Northwest Area Health Education Center, that's pretty expensive. I'm just looking at, at the deal of the cost that's per attendee. So, my question to
It says-
you.
But it's $30 per attendee and $20 per attendee, depending on the
That's
lesson.
$1,800 fee. Plus
That's the
30
fee from Wake Forest. Wake Forest, we can't. That's just how much they charge for their licensure.
If you just let me finish my
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. So, what I'm asking is, and I know that, you mentioned in here the new DEA law that goes in effect June 27th, and they have to take it the prescribers, 8 additional hours. But my question is, have you researched any other vendor that can provide the training cheaper?
That is the vendor. That's who is the area health
Well,
educator.
but there's different ways to provide it. Even if you got to use the same vendor, which I don't know. I'm not.
And I asked those.
I just really got into this today.
I understand.
With the extra
The
stuff.
$1,800 fee for that's for prescribers. That's your doctors and nurse practitioners. That is the flat fee. You're going to pay $1,800 if you use.
What about a
company-
webinar?
You're still going to have to. That's for the licensure. That is for someone to attend the course and receive certification that says, yes, this course is good. You took it, so you get to keep your license. It's a state board. Maybe I'm not coming up with a good way to explain it. You can go to any other state and get board certified electrician. But if you wanted to work in North Carolina, you'd have to go to a North Carolina board certified electrician place and pay with that. The $1,800 and the $325, that's not negotiable. That's the fee. What could be, now I understand what you're saying, because if we talk about the event management fee, which is, if you look at, it says $1,800 and then $30, the Northwest AHEC, which is how it's said out loud, the event management fee, if you do want to do virtual trainings and webinars, you can take that fee out. You would also take out the venue fee and the food. If you're making it available to them virtually on a Saturday at their house, that's something where you can cut some costs. But the $1,800 and the $325, that's set in stone. That's how the state of North Carolina, that's what they charge for that.
So, is there not a train the trainer? So in other words, if we have to go through the Northwest Area Health Education Center, is there not somebody that we can send that gets the training credentials, instructor credentials, and then do webinar seminars to whoever we want in Stokes County to take or does it have to be
It has to be to receive your licensure in the state of North
from
Carolina.
an
Yes, sir.
employee of theirs?
Well, actually, that $1,800 fee goes to a board. You tell them what you're going to teach them and the course material. They're going to send the course material, which we don't have to develop. It's already developed. They send it to a board, and they're going to sign off on it. Yes, it's good to go. No, it's not good. Yes, this meets your qualifications for these 8 hours, these 4 hours to receive your licensure.
Okay.
I don't.
I ended at this, but if we can find a cheaper solution, but it still meets the standards and is still effective, I would ask that. But if you're 100% for sure that it is what it is, and we just got to do it through them and pay the fee, then so be it.
I want to just ask a question before I forget. So if we decided we didn't want to use our settlement money for this one thing, the workforce development for the prescribers and dispensers and things like that, do they have to still required to get this training no matter what?
Yes. To keep their licensure to prescribers dispense, they have to have it, like by law. Otherwise, they lose their license, and what good's a doctor who can't
Right.
write you what you need?
I can see the benefit for us paying for health department employees and that sort of thing to do it, but I mean, is it beneficial is CVS gonna have to pay for their people to do it or whatever anyway?
It's usually on their own.
So they're
It's out of their pocket.
out of their pocket.
Yeah. So the guys across the street who run that pharmacy, it's out of their pocket. So I know the two guys who own it bought it from one guy's parents, so that's 4 of them, and then there's one at both of their stores. That's 6 people that are having to pay out of pocket to do this themselves. And this isn't new. This has been provided in the county previously through another grant, which is no longer available, but it is something that is required. And it is, I do want to say, I understand it's $10,000 a year recurring cost, but you're talking about training and providing up-to-date current best practices to the frontline workers who are seeing folks with issues every day.
As long as you're saying that's what we have to do, and there's not an alternative, cheaper source to do it, I'll take your word for it. I'll move on.
Okay, yes, sir.
Like I said, the county employees, if we need to do it for the community paramedics and the health department, that would be first priority. And if there's more in the pot of money to help other people, then
Okay.
good too.
Real quick on the trailer with the sheriff's office, I can direct more of my questions to the sheriff's office later, but the only thing I just kind of want to know is, so we have the mobile prevention education unit, the trailer. So who mans that? Who staffs it?
Law enforcement, first responders, people who are contracted through Insight, who are required to provide prevention education to community members. I mean, it depends on what you're wanting to push. If you're wanting to push
I'm just going on what you.
No, yeah,
not
no, I
you,
understand.
but I mean, I'm just going on what the sheriff wants. Since the sheriff's office wants the trailer, it's a mobile prevention education unit. So I'm just wanting to know, what do they want it for, and who's going to staff it? That's all I'm asking.
Laura's got more information on that.
Okay.
It came from her subcommittee, which involved all first responders, it's, law enforcement, and medical and fire and rescue.
I knew you'd have to come up at some time.
Hey, good evening. Laura Bullen. So in my meeting that we had with the subcommittees, I had Brandon Gentry, I had Joey Tilley, I had AJ Atherton Jessup from the Fire Marshal's office, and I had Eric Cohn. So Eric Cohn brought the idea up for the mobile prevention trailer. Basically, ideally, what we would use it all is emergency responders, first responders, all together, like a collaborative. So if there was a community event, we could take this trailer with one of our vehicles that we already have, we could pull it to the event, and we would work together. Now, like if the sheriff's office was doing an event on their own, they could use it solely, but it would be open for all first responders to use to provide education.
Who staffs it?
So really, staffing wise, I know like us, the community medics, we sometimes will, go to the public events, we'll take trailers, but there's really not staffing required. I mean, you would come up with a community event, say, hey, I'm going to go to this event. Can I take your trailer? It's like a shared device, technically, for the whole county to use. So as far as staffing, does that answer your question?
So you just hand out literature? You put literature on a table or something and walk away?
Okay,
or
so-
what?
I would utilize it for hidden in plain sight. That's a hands-on parent engagement protocol that explains and shares with hands-on equipment about concealment devices for adolescent substance use.
So you basically could set it up inside like your teenager's room. With what he's saying is basically you have families that could walk in, sheriff's department could be on scene and be like, hey, this is maybe where your teenagers are hiding. These are places to look. And on one end of the trailer, you actually have an area where you could have literature. Outside, you could have, a small TV screen that shows a video. So it's really not pressuring anybody to enter, but if they want to, they can. But there would be literature on the outside and the inside. But solely, I would hope that we work in a collaborative. So the community medics could be there. We could provide education, maybe Narcan training. Sheriff's department could set up a scene, maybe like a teenager's bedroom, things like that. So we would all work together.
Okay. All right, thanks. Next, let's see here. All right, the drop boxes. So you say it's $8,000 per drop box as a one-time cost, but I mean, how much did we pay for? You say we have 3 here in Stokes right now. How much did we pay for those?
You didn't pay anything.
Why do we have to pay $8,000 now?
Because the community coalition that installed those 3 aren't installing these. Because there needs to be DEA registered sites, and those are the 3 locations that are already established in the county. Because you have a law enforcement office in Walnut Cove, a law enforcement office in Danbury, and a law enforcement office in King. And the 8,000 number, that's a little, I mean, it's not misleading, because the box itself, $1,500. The other money comes from the security enhancements that you have to have, because the box is going to be potentially housing controlled substances. It also can only be at certain sites in the county that have to be registered with the DEA. This was in 2008. It was the community coalition that I'm the chair of now. I wasn't then. They raised the funds. They had a grant, and they were able to install the 3 drop boxes. So we're talking about enhancing and making resources available in the county and other parts of the county, because Danbury is still a good ways away from places like Sandy Ridge, up in Francisco. King is obviously not a place a lot of people go to. And then Walnut Cove, there's only, it's the 2nd largest living center in the county.
I support the drop boxes, but can you explore some programs where we can get benefits from reduced prices? I know in Fable, before I left, we were working with CBS to do things. They would do things for us. So can we, I know we got a CBS here in Stokes County.
We do.
So, well, yeah,
there's a few.
But you know what I'm saying?
Understand.
So I mean I'm good with that, but just because it's we're getting this off the more money that we can get free and we combine with this stuff, the more that we can do, for the stuff that we can't get. Let's go to the peer support specialist. Just off the top of my head, I agree with what you were saying. It's probably going to be a bad fit under our HR department, hiring wise, county employees, because we have policies where record checks, and so we might have to. I'm not saying it can't be done, but we just might have to rework, some of the, we make exceptions, for what.
Be a contracted
Right.
employee versus
Right. But what about the current peer specialists that we have here in the county? We can't utilize, start with them. Do we have any peer specialists in the county?
That's hired by, not that work for the county, no.
Well, no, not for the
that.
county, but I'm
They
talking
don't
about.
work under that umbrella. They do work in the pre and post trial release program. It's a tough task for one person to do it. That also comes into.
So it's just one. We just have one.
I know of one that is in the county. That is Norgan, but she's also split staff between this and another county.
She doesn't work solely as a peer support specialist, but I think she may be certified to be a peer support specialist. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
How hard is that position to fill?
it's beginning to be easier just because there's more training opportunities and certifications for people. I don't even think people knew what a peer support specialist was 2 years ago, and now it's becoming a more common term because basically they walk with this person in recovery through their recovery every step of the way, and they can provide hope for this recovering person that has a substance use disorder because they've been there, so they have the buy-in. They can get the buy-in because they've been there. So it's a critical, and it's fairly new, but it's that because they have lived experiences, they have the they hold the value to the recovering addict that they can, if they can do it, maybe I can do it, that kind of thing. So it's a fairly new, probably not really new, but a few years. I hadn't heard about it till a few years ago.
It's new to Stokes County. They're doing it successfully in other counties.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing it successfully in Surrey County, Wilkes County. It is something where it is becoming an industry standard for any company who does any sort of recovery or treatment. they have peer support specialists
I'm
on
for
staff.
it. I'm for it. I'm just trying to, get it off to a fast start without costing us,
It'd be
a lot
competitive.
of
The
time
only thing
and
holding it back is
more money.
competitive
But if
pay.
we only got one and it's just a part-time thing, then obviously that we don't have to worry about that. So let's go to the facilitator coordinator for prevention service providers. I totally support that. I think I think we need that. It's that position will help coordinate and kind of bring everything together that we're trying to do with the opioid. But what I want to make sure is that they're not pigeonholed. In other words, I don't want to pigeonhole a coordinator just for say prevention. So they would have to do all four. They should have experience and be able to do all prevention, harm reduction, treatment, recovery. Not just recovery, not just crime prevention, or not prevention and not harm reduction. So I'm for that, as long as we can incorporate all four of the.
Continuum of care is the technical term that they use.
There you go.
Because you're handing the whole gamut. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So we're good with that. And then let's go down. We're almost done. It'll be quick. We got the. Where the machines, they can go in and, kick out the Narcan. My only question is, can we look like it for Scythe? I know Cumberland was doing it, putting it, loading up the machines. That's fine. Let's just get to make sure how well they're working. I know I've seen some stuff in the past where they tend more to, they think it's more bang for the buck if they have to come to a person. And it's a hand-to-hand thing, because while you're hand-to-hand stuff, then you're also talking with them, and you can give them literature, you can point them in the right way. It's a human contact, and not just coming out of the machine. But I don't know. This is not my expertise, but I read. So if you'll just look at that, and then you can y'all make the decision, but just make sure that because they're doing it, and make sure that. This is a glitch.
You want it done the right way.
Yeah, right. Okay. And then my last thing is, you say indirect services, and you got 20,000 as a recurring cost, contracted services 30,000. I mean, okay, so what are you talking about indirect services, and what contracted services for $30,000 are we looking at?
So indirect services are things that aren't actually applicable to what is happening. So that would be, it could be a cell phone, it could be technology for whoever you hire. It could fall under that. You're talking about maintenance of the trailer. If an axle breaks, you're paying that. That's a fluctuating cost. But indirect services, and Amber or folks who are more familiar with budgets, there's direct services, which is salary. Then there's indirect services, which would be something like getting papers printed or fixing a printer that's broken. So those things are, it is listed at 20 and 30. It really is up to the commissioners on how that goes, because you're talking about something that 1 year it could be.
Well, it'd help the commissioners if we knew precisely what you were talking about. I mean, I know you're giving me examples, but I mean, what do you want to use it for in Stokes County? What's an indirect service? And you don't have to answer this. This is just something can be, just tightened up a little bit. I would have concerns approving something that. For $20,000 a year, it's indirect services. I want to know what the indirect services are, and then we can come up with a budget, and then we kind of go from there, and that's it. We did it. We're done.
Mr. Wood?
Why do I have to follow you?
Got two others here.
You can say you don't have anything now, and then just jump in when someone else is done.
Going back to the peer support, what helps these people get back in the workforce society?
So that would be something that the peer support specialist does.
Okay.
It would be something where they help them, because if you're talking about someone who has, and I mean literally, lost everything that they've had, they have no family that they can count on because they either burned them on stealing their stuff, or burned them because they got in a physical altercation. You're talking about a peer support specialist, someone who's going to get that person on track to become a productive member of society. Now, whether that is making sure that they have a license, making sure they have a GED, if they don't have a license, what paperwork do they need to get that? if they need to get a GED because they don't have a GED, but you have to get a GED before you take your plumber's course, your electrician course, your welder course, whatever it is at the community college, is someone who's going to help them get on track. And it's and like Mr. Cox said, it's someone who's been there. If I were to give you advice on physical fitness, you wouldn't take much from it. But if I was 6'5", 220, chiseled like a rock, and I told you about physical fitness, you'd buy into it. The peer support specialist does that. It's someone who is someone who's just floating, just have no purpose, have nowhere to go. That peer support specialist is a buoy that they can cling on to that'll help them get to where they need to be. And I can't say enough about peer support specialists. I definitely, other people can say it better than I did. But that's someone that a peer support specialist can help them get on track, which is why we asked for 2, or suggested at least 2. Your transition from coming out of jail, where you don't have any family, you don't have anyone you can count on, that person's going to help them transition back into society and help keep them there.
But they got to have a place to live too.
Yeah, there's some funds in here for housing, stipends. There's abilities, there's ways we can get around it. One of the issues that I've heard from some of my counterparts is that we don't have residential treatment listed into this. And if we did that, I don't think we'd have money for anything else. But housing stipends, working on getting somebody back up on their feet. If they're willing to work and get back up on their feet, that's something that the peer support specialist can do.
I'm good.
Commissioner Cox.
Sure. So I don't have a ton of questions about most of this because of working on this committee. I pretty much understand all of it. I just, let me see. I will say when we were talking about the media campaign, what would be so important about a media campaign and communication is, as we keep hearing in the things that we attend and go to in the meetings too, is how important erasing the stigma is, so that people will get help, so that family members reach out. I've got a friend whose son is in addiction, and they have to attend or they're choosing to attend a support group online for parents of addicted loved ones or whatever, because they can't find a support group like that in our area. But I think there are some, and there's beginning to be more of that around. But that's the kind of thing, like you say, if we did know of a meeting for families of addicted loved ones or whatever, then we could use that media campaign for something like that. There's just a ton of uses. I think we could create a Facebook page maybe for Stokes County specific to this, to disseminate information about events and about October Road, things that are available to people. It would, and we do know that people in this county pay attention to mailers, so mailers is always a good thing to get the word out about stuff. I do like the mobile prevention education unit. I specifically like what he's talking about setting it up like a teenager's room. There's a lady who does a traveling. She goes to high schools and things, and basically she sets the stage of the high school, if it has an auditorium and stage, up like a teenager's room. And what she does, and they bring these parents in, and she talks to them about showing them things to look for in a teenager's room, burns on the carpet or spoons that are weird and maybe have burn marks on them, or different things that to look for that parents don't think about, and keywords that teenagers are using in the place of some of this jargon that they use, so they know what they're talking about. And but the peer supports, again, I support that 100%. That's something that I think. What's the thing that Wilkes Recovery is doing with the workforce up there, where if you had a peer support specialist, they could go into the community and engage these employers to talk to them about hiring some of these people, and they have a name for what they're doing.
Yeah, they do have a name, but it'll come to me in just a minute because you asked me on the spot. But they tied in with Tyson Farms. So Tyson Farms, they had a strict drug policy, strict background check. But now what they do is they actually allow people coming out of recovery that are who are wanting to work, because technically somebody who is in recovery trying to get a job, on average, based on data, will miss 13 less days of work because they know they need to work to keep a roof over their head, to provide meals, pay for medication. But what they did is they tied in with Tyson Farms. They allow them to work, and unless they really
is one of their employers up there.
Yeah, and unless they really mess up on the job, they aren't drug screened. Now, they know that they are eligible for a random pop drug screen, you know, so they do know that. But as long as they have their medication bottles, if they're on any medication-assisted treatment, they do allow them employment. So, but they have made special considerations with their background checks, policies, and things like that. But they have tied in with several different agencies. It's in my literature. I can get y'all the information on it if you want.
It's a really neat. They just were recognized in Washington D.C.
Yeah,
for
they got a huge award.
That program that they've started up there. So, and they started small, just like we're talking about, and it just built to what it is today. And now they have a farm. They have a store where the people work in the store. They do the housing. They do some treatment. They have. It just, you got to start somewhere, And
they all started with peer support. I mean, they all that run this agency, they all have a lived experience. They have a past. So peer support was a big thing for them. And met somebody where they are. Even if EMS came out, EMS did a refusal. They didn't want to go to the hospital. We gave them Narcan. We gave them training. Still getting somebody who's been there and done that and lived on that experience, walk into them with plain clothes, because uniforms scare people. So to have somebody come in and say, hey, I'm here for you, whether you want to go now or you just want me to sit here with you for a little bit, they're able to take them to their doctor's appointments, provide them transportation, provide that support, just be there with them 24/7 if that's what they need. And it's working really good everywhere, and they're hiring more and more. So I'm ready to see Stokes County follow that trend.
The only other thing I was going to mention is, the harm reduction is key, and it would be something that you could use the media and communication for, is to get more information out there about harm reduction and why it's so important. And like I agree with you what you said about the kiosk. I think you need to look at best practices in other places and see what's working and what's not as far as that goes. But the facilitator coordinator position, I would like us just to dig a little deeper in that, because I know in talking to Eric Cohn and different people and Nora, there's some different thoughts about if it could be handled by current people that are employed, by restructuring maybe what they do in their job to take on some of that role, or it could be a part-time position even to start with, to see how it goes. But I think it might be beneficial, but I'd like to explore if we already have the resources to cover that. That's all I've got.
Mr. Mendenhall.
Thank you. Derek, I was looking back at your Part 1 treatment list, and on number 4 it says improve oversight of opioid treatment programs to assure evidence-based or evidence-informed practices such as adequate methadone dosing and low-threshold approaches to treatment. I'm assuming that will funnel in some work in some of the items that we just discussed. Is that correct?
It can if you want it to. I am not as fluent in that. That would be Jordan Hemmings from Daymark, because they provide it, and October Road will be providing it, and the health department does provide it. If we're talking about something like that, that would be a decision that comes from the commissioners. If that is something that is interested by the commissioner board, that's something we can definitely look at. You can talk about enhancing the services that are already available. You can talk about supporting folks who are uninsured or underinsured, which may not fall into some of those categories, to receive treatment. That's where some of that can come in.
just want to make sure I'm totally clear on everything that Commissioner Chandler and Cox and Keith has discussed, everything from peer support specialist on down. We are talking about, with recurring costs and everything, $260,000 per year for 15 years. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So it will be a total of $4,010,000.
Yes, sir. Because for the total 18-year payment is going to be $4,019,041. So there's going to be a little bit left over at the end.
Well, also, there's another settlement.
Well, I was going to say, and not only that, looking at the cost breakdown with the recurring costs compared to the one-time cost, I think the one-time cost was only $110,000, which was $25,000 for the drop boxes, $60,000 for the mobile prevention unit, and $25,000 for the kiosk. So we're looking at a one-time cost of $110,000, correct?
Yes, sir. And that those numbers for the 25,000 drop boxes and 25,000 kiosks, that's for 3 kiosks. So if you end up only doing one, or you only end up doing one drop box, just one of each, that cost comes down. And like I said, you can put it towards some other things like staffing and folks who are going to be boots on the ground type efforts. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and $260,000 per year on the 15-year. Okay.
Yes, sir. Considering that we've got in the bank, in the account, I don't know how to word it, around $762,000 from the 2022 spring and 2022 summer installments, and then if the 2023 summer installment has come, maybe it hasn't, but yes.
I'm good.
Cool, good. Commissioner Cox did say something about reducing stigma, and that is accurate. The group she talked about, Parents of Addicted Loved Ones, that was run locally by Diana Altrap, and she has a very big heart for this, but people weren't coming to her meetings. She had them Thursday nights, Tuesday nights, Thursday mornings, Tuesday mornings. She had them in different parts of the county, and to the best of my knowledge, the last time I talked to her, she had closed up shop and stopped doing the classes. It is volunteer driven. It is something that is someone has to be trained on. It is faith focused. I don't believe it to be faith based. It is 12 program steps, but once you get to step 12, it just starts over again with another lesson. Goes back to lesson 1. Anyway, I said all that to say this. She closed up shop because people weren't coming, because of the stigma associated with addiction. So we had resources like that in the county that weren't being used. She was doing it for free. She was doing it out of her own pocket because...
And it may have been, too, lack of just people knowing about it, too. I don't know how you get... That's where it would, if you have money to promote things like that, it'll help get the word out about that stuff. And also, what I was going to say is, anytime during the 17 years that you get this money and you're seeing something's not really working, or you want to try something different, like let's just stop doing this thing and try something else. That's what they say is a lot of flexibility to just, you can, say, oh, that didn't work like we thought it would, we're going to try this. Because there is a lot of reporting that goes into this, and measurable things have to be measured and reported. So that's why you can't just throw the money at it and just hope it sticks. You got to report back to the state what you did and if it had the impact to reduce the opioid overdoses.
In other words, it's interchangeable.
Yes, it is interchangeable.
What you 3 months from now you decide to spend this, and this. That doesn't mean in 5 years you're still spending this, and this. They're flexible with it, but you're also talking about the SPIF model, which is Strategic Prevention Framework, which goes back to prevention. But you're going to implement something. You're going to evaluate it and assess it to see how well it's working. If it's not working, you have to change your approach, which is what this funding allows.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Okay. Just a couple questions. Is this list we have A through E the formal recommendation of the committee of something we adopt?
A through, say that again, I'm sorry.
The recommendations you gave us, number A through E, that we've been talking about and going through, is this the final formal recommendation of what we adopt
Yes.
and fund?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the schedule for adopting this and then starting to execute these programs?
Some of them have to be supported by folks who aren't here tonight. For example, the Mobile Prevention Education Unit, that's something that comes from Eric Cohn in the Sheriff's Department and the first responder sector. If you're talking about wanting to post for peer support specialists, that's something that,
I'm
those
just
jobs.
talking about approving the 260 and doing a budget amendment and giving people money and them starting to do the work.
It's
How's
up
that
to us,
work?
I think it's up.
It is up to you. Yes, sir.
I think we.
Well, I mean, we have reporting requirements to the state that start on a certain date or something? I
Not
mean,
until I don't think Amber may know, but until the money's allocated and,
See anything yet?
yeah.
Not to that point.
well, so we've got a pot of money that sits 700 and something thousand. Is that here, Lisa? Is that, or where's that sit?
Yeah.
It's here. Yeah, we haven't received that third payment to my knowledge. No. The
Okay.
summer payment we're supposed to get this summer, we
So
haven't received
if we approve this list tonight, I mean, we're not going to tonight, but if we approve this list tonight, we do a budget amendment at the next meeting or whatever,
We could.
and give somebody 260,000 and tell you to go do all this stuff, right? Is that what you're looking for? I'm just trying to understand the system, you know?
Yes. So the only people who can decide what happens with this money are all sitting up there.
Yeah, so that's back to my original question. So is this the formal recommendation
A through E?
from the committee of this list that we just talked about?
G?
It's A through I is what I see.
through I.
Okay. I thought you said E,
I thought
Aye.
you said.
which stopped like halfway through. Well, not a little bit
I, I'm
over
sorry, I may
halfway.
have said that.
A through I.
I'm just anxious to get on with it, you know?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Instead of keep talking about it.
I would take it back to the next committee meeting, which is August. I'd have to look at the calendar. It meets 1 o'clock the day y'all are going to meet, whatever second Monday is in August. And I would tell those folks, if we have the green light, or potentially, theoretically, hypothetically have the green light, to bring these proposals back, because some of these things I'm involved in, that I'm in with. Laura has some, but there are other subcommittees under our subcommittee, because I'm not an expert at everything.
See, what I would prefer to do is, I mean, the budget amendment is fine, but I'm not gonna vote just to turn loose money, and I don't have one person that's accountable for it. I think
do one at a
you
time.
phase in, and you gotta start with organization, a structure.
Let me tell you my thought process. give somebody $260,000 to do all these things that they have recommended. It's what we need to do. If we agree that's what we need to do, and then this becomes a quarterly program review chart where they come back to us quarterly and report on A through I. What's the status
Basically,
of
you'll
it?
have to, because the state's gonna require it
Does that, I mean,
anyway.
does that work or not? To me, it's a convoluted. I can't figure out how we're ever going to get the money out and get anything started until we narrow this. And if this is the narrowed down recommendation, then why don't we deal with it?
Somebody, so.
What am I missing? What am I missing here?
Well, is accountability. So somebody, whether it's just like with the state, you're familiar with state grant, the feds and the states and the grant. Somebody's accountable to make sure it's taking the money in and making sure the money is spent in accordance to what was approved in the original agreement, and everything is in place. And then someone has got to be the one that to recommend the contracts to be approved. You're going to contract out to certain things. To me, unless you want the interim manager in her spare time to run everything, to get everything up and going.
All I need her to do is coordinate the program review chart. She can have all these people come and explain it.
Well, it could be a duty that grants manager position could tackle as well, that you approved in the budget.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just wondering how we're going to get it going here.
It is a grant.
It is a
Calendar year.
grant.
We're just gonna keep getting recommendations and we'll
Well,
just
I
talk
think
about them. or
you
what?
decide, like, if you're gonna do the facilitator coordinator position. If you're
yes.
gonna do that,
So we don't have
or-
an individual vote on each one of these?
no, but I think that you may decide, we're gonna spend that money first to get that person up and running, and that person can sort of oversee some of this other stuff. And make some recommendations of where, if we're gonna hire peer support specialists, are they contracted employees?
What are they asking
Do they
this
work for the
board?
health department? Do they
What are
work-
we asking this board to do?
I think just
Consensus that you're okay, that you're approve this list. Because I think we wouldn't have to do a budget amendment. I mean, unless it's something that we would need to send money to. Because I mean, we have it in a separate account. I'm right, Lisa, for this money. Because we have to keep it separate. Yeah, separate fund.
So how's it gonna get dispersed to the people that spend it then?
Well, I guess we'd have to write them a check, and we just have to keep up with what's what. Because I mean, you know, I don't know how you do a budget amendment because a lot of these aren't county departments.
Well, and-
you know what I
Well,
mean?
if we don't need to, we don't need to, but I mean, Lisa doesn't need to have to track off A through I here and write checks to everyone, everything, does she? I mean, is that,
That's kind of where your project coordinator would come in, so they would be your main person, and if you decided with that, sorry, I'm sitting down. Your project coordinator, they would work together, like if you decided you wanted to hire two peer supports would report to that project coordinator would handle, all of your coordination for events, your media posts,
okay, so where's the project coordinator on this list?
so that is gonna be.
facilitator coordinator.
Facilitator.
SF, right?
Yeah.
Facility, and do y'all have a facility coordinator at this time, or are you waiting for approval from us with the money?
Well, so that would be where we would need your approval. You could hire one person, or you could hire people who are already doing it within the agency, or like within the county, or outside the county. Because you already have some people doing these services as a provider, for instance, Insights, they're already doing prevention.
Which would y'all rather have? Individual?
We have,
We're going to automate that.
answer the question different. We're responsible for dispersing this opioid money, right? We've got $700,000 of it.
500,000. Yeah, we're waiting on that
500,
third
we're
payment.
getting more. We're getting more each year for the next 15 years. How are we gonna disperse this money and hiring all these coordinators and everybody? We're gonna hire one person and then y'all delegate to them to do all the lists? Or what? I mean, I don't, makes
That
no
would
sense
be-
to me.
Let me suggest one thing. So at our meeting that we went to with the county commissioners, held the summit. The state has, what's her name again? That worked for Nitty. Very helpful. She will come in and sit down with this committee if we want to send it back and say we like this list. We have consensus that this is kind of the direction we want to go. Go back and sit down with her and let's talk to her about how other counties are doing it, how the association recommends doing all that, because I guarantee you they're already working on all the stuff that we've got questions about.
I'm kind of sensitive to our staff as busy as they are having to do all this piecemeal stuff.
Well, it would
item
probably
by
be
item.
helpful to bring her in, maybe to the August meeting.
Yeah, I can reach out and send her an email.
And then, any commissioners that want to come ask questions would be,
Well, I mean,
or we can have her at 2 or have her come back at 6 at our meeting.
well, our board's responsible for approving this money and ensuring it gets spent like it's supposed to, I assume, once we do that. So
Yeah.
I'd like for somebody to come explain to us how we ensure that happens without working our
Well,
staff to death.
because it's such a big deal and such an important thing, the County Commissioners Association has a task force basically of how many people, at least 5, I think I met at the thing, that's what they're tasked with, is
Okay.
helping counties navigate this. So
Okay. So we don't need to approve these recommendations tonight or anything?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, and I'll just make a side note, so we are very advanced compared to other counties. Other
Right,
counties
we're
have
further
not
along.
even formed committees, have not even drafted ideas, so we are way ahead. We have a very oriented team who's really driven very well to do something, and they're kind of like what you said, you're just ready to do something. I mean, a lot of people on our committee will say, I've heard all this talking, I'm ready to see some of this money I'm gonna start with the top. There are several things on that list that are free. They don't really have a big cost to them.
Keep talking, you need to come up to the microphone.
Okay, well, I'm done. Stokes County is like,
We're ahead.
We're a lot ahead.
Okay, all right. All right, so what's the next step then? This is gonna come back to us on another agenda sometime.
Well, I think we're gonna wait for we have our next.
Yeah, let's have it
next
back in
committee
August
meeting,
and
then our
have
board
somebody
meeting.
from the task force, yeah. That's
The
fine.
last time you saw me, there were 25 things on this piece of paper. Now it's just down to 9.
No, I was gonna congratulate you.
We're making
for
progress.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
I know you got to do quarterly reports to the state.
Yeah, you're also. Is it FSR? Do you know if it's FSR?
There's no audits involved.
Oh, yes, it's going to be audited.
Okay. Who does the audits?
The financial department for the county.
Our audit.
They're the
Our
money
auditors.
holders.
See, it's back to us.
It's all back to us. I'm trying to get it clarified.
Nothing.
We need that task force to come and
Yeah.
walk us through it a little better, so
Okay.
that's fine.
I don't see Lisa jumping for joy.
Don't have
I'd like to
anything
sit
else?
down with that task force and show them what we've got and get feedback, so.
Okay, that's the next step then.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, thank you
All right.
very much
Thank
for
you.
narrowing down the list.
Yes.
too.
Thank you so much, y'all. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
The next item on our agenda is the noise ordinance discussion. So let me see, who's doing that? You got something on that, Amber?
Do you want to start, Ty? Because this is the proposal that you put together. I don't know if you want to share what you heard back from the sheriff's department.
Yes, I had not. I sent it to Eric Cohn. I had not heard from him this morning. So I emailed him and asked him if he'd had a chance to look over it. He said he had. He said he was fine with it. On a recommendation that he had, he wanted to clarify that the Stokes County Sheriff and his officers would have the authority to enforce it, as well as any designee of the county manager. So I've made that change to clarify that.
What part is that under?
Well, it's under 6 administration, where it says Sheriff of Stokes County and or anyone designated in writing by the county manager. And it's also in Section 8 enforcement. Stokes County, in its discretion, may through the Stokes County, through the Sheriff's Department and its officers and or anyone designated in writing by the county manager. Take one or
Would
more
there
of
be
the following.
anybody else that would be designated to, besides
counties do.
enforcement?
In terms of civil,
Yeah.
if it's
So
not a
you
criminal
have-
matter, some counties have a person that deals with it and for the civil.
But we have looked at several different noise ordinances, Guilford County, Alamance County, Forsyth County, also looked at a proposed ordinance that was looked at by the Board of Commissioners in 2010 here in Stokes County. There was a draft of a new ordinance that never was adopted. So we've taken bits and pieces from all of those and put in these provisions. It's intended to be a working draft, so it's for your review. We wanted to put in more than might be needed, but we wanted to bring your attention to the different possibilities and different provisions that you would want to consider and discuss. And we've got specific designated acts that are declared to be unreasonably loud, disturbing, and unnecessary noises in violation of this section. But the enumeration, and this starts at bottom of page 2, this enumeration is not exclusive. So it's just these specific things are considered to be in violation. So we've got those, and we've got,
But you're saying they're not all inclusive, is that what
right,
you mean
they're
by
all
not exclusive?
Right, yeah. So we got 14 different sections of that, and then after that we have exceptions, and the exceptions would be exempt from the provisions of the noise ordinance. And then Section 8 is enforcement, so we've got criminal penalties and civil penalties. And also provision for injunction and order of abatement. So it's got a lot more teeth, and it's a lot more enforceable than the existing one.
Okay. I would echo Ty's comment. This is a working draft. If anybody's nervous about us approving this tonight, we're not going to. It's not going to action tonight. We're going to work with it and try to factor in. Like we have 2 sets of comments, public comments tonight that need to be factored in. You happen to have a written copy of the comments you made that you could give us?
Yeah, I'll pass it around.
Got them all right here? Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
Take one and pass it, yeah.
Yeah, I want to, you get one, y'all got one?
Yeah, got one.
The, one of the things I want to do is go through this in detail and see what he's talking about compared to the sections that are in the proposed draft. And then the comments on the winery also very helpful. We need to, my first thought after hearing the other speaker and then hearing you guys speak is that with the draft we have here, you're not in violation of what we have in here. That's be my opinion from what I've heard. But I think the next step especially is to go through and analyze this and see if we want to make any changes based on that, and then see, give the commissioners a couple weeks more here to look at this and figure out what other areas that we might want to tweak or make adjustments on. Is that reasonable?
I agree.
That sounds good. I had a question, Todd. Can you look at some of the other noise ordinances from other counties and see, it seems that some of them do talk about including decibels into their ordinance specifically for different time frames. I was looking at one from Cornelius where they were having some trouble with loud music and stuff, and they basically allow from on the weekends to 11, like Friday and Saturday, that it could be 90 to 85 is allowed, and just overnight, anytime is 60 to 75 decibels is acceptable. So they also in theirs have a noise mitigation plan, which sounds reasonable. To if there is any, I guess, say a business or maybe an individual, but I would say more or less it would be a business that was like a chronic noise that chronically gets cited or something, that there's a way to work with them to mitigate that before they start getting into huge fines and things like that. But their fines, I think, were more than what we were looking at charging.
Who has that ordinance?
It was the town of Cornelius, I think, is who I saw that on. I kind of like that idea to have a mitigation plan to try to work with people before you just start citing them and stuff. Because, I think we're very fortunate in our area to have so many venues that are places that people can go and that host these birthday parties and wedding receptions and things like that. And the last thing that I would want to do is create something that is, not conducive to an environment where we are welcoming these businesses and these venues to our area, because those people have out-of-town guests. They stay. Sometimes people visit multiple wineries on a day trip or something, and, they do expect live music and that kind of thing. So I know that you're not trying to do anything to harm your neighbors, but it's just, it is what it is. And, if the decibel, that's why I think maybe the decibel thing should come into play, because I think what could be considered reasonable to one person might not be reasonable to the next person. But if you actually have a decibel meter and you say, well, it's 75, and the ordinance says, that's reasonable for this time period, then it's kind of cut and dry.
Most of them that we looked at did not have that, but that's the only objective standard that you can use.
Yeah.
Everything else is subjective.
Because what might be loud to me might not
Yeah.
be considered loud to my teenage daughter. I don't have a teenage daughter.
Exactly. It's very difficult to come up with a good, workable noise ordinance
Right.
that will protect the general public from
I have trouble in my car.
unreasonable noise,
'Cause
but,
I don't
but
like
not
it
interfere
too
with
loud.
legitimate business.
The only one
No.
downside, the only downside to mandate the decibel meter is it comes down, if it's a criminal thing especially, there's a fable, we went through it to where the instrument has to be certified.
Yeah.
It has to be certified every 3 months, and you have to get a vendor or company comes
Right.
in. Then when we bring the vendor in to testify that the thing was certified, we got to pay the vendor, to come and testify. So the city of Fayette will be out $5,000 for a $25 $25
Yeah,
fine.
that could be problematic.
So but I agree. We got to be, we got to look at it from being objective, and I don't think we're trying to be overzealous
Right, yeah.
with stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to be unreasonable. You want to be fair to everybody. And look, you're just not going to please everybody.
Right.
It's just impossible.
Right.
So you have to look at what's reasonable.
Well, I mean, to me, like an example would be if you're sitting at home and it's midnight, and let's just say a winery is playing a live band, and your house is shaking. It's been shaking all night long. I think that's unreasonable.
That's clear stuff.
If it's so if you're not getting the shaking and the wind is vibrating and it's 12 o'clock at night, I mean, I don't, I just. But if it is, then I think then you need to tune the music down a little bit. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of nightclubs like that. And you say, hey, look, you're knocking the windows out. You're gonna have to dial it down, or we're gonna close it down.
Apparently there is equipment that, and they may know more about this than me, but there is certain things you can buy to reduce bass to kind of mitigate some of the noise to, kind of balance it out more so that it's not as, and people that know sound equipment would know more about what I'm talking about. I don't have any idea. But there's ways to do it.
Yeah, come up to the microphone if you want.
Just a general comment. We can be standing on our patio and the neighbor's 300 yards away on the other hill having a conversation in their driveway. You can hear that. Not loud, but you can hear it. You may not be able to depict every word that's being spoken, but you can hear that conversation.
Yeah.
And so the music obviously is louder than a conversation, and you can hear it, but I don't think it's unreasonable personally. That's just my opinion. And with the decibel meter, I mean, that to me kind of proved that before we even reach our property line, we peaked at 71 one time, and it was most of the time it stayed in the 50s and 60s, and I'll be glad to share that with you if you need it. For a 10-minute, I recorded for 10 minutes.
And we had that one band that Cat 5 was really loud.
We did have one that was loud, and we actually asked them to turn down because it wasn't comfortable to the listener.
Yeah, see, but it's business owners like what you all are. You see, you're reasonable, so you'll never have any. I just don't think you'll have a problem with,
Yeah.
with
And like I said, we have tried since day one to be good neighbors and cut it at 11. The ordinance currently says we could go till midnight, but we don't. There's no restrictions on Sunday in the current ordinance that I know of, but we decided when we opened we wouldn't do any music on Sunday to respect the neighbors.
yeah.
So we're really trying to be good neighbors, but we're trying to operate a business. So,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really important.
yeah.
And I live on Gentry Road up here on the top of the hill, sort of, and that bar that's been there forever on Piedmont Springs. But they used to have outside music playing like into the early evening and so forth, and if the wind's blowing the right way, I could hear it really well, like miles away, mile or so away, but it's not a problem.
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, that's not a problem when you hear that, unless, like Brad said, unless it's shaking your windows, then.
And we've asked
Oh, yeah,
other
sure.
neighbors, and by the way, probably 80% of our close neighbors have been to the winery, but they come, some of them come regularly to music events. But we've asked and polled some of them, and yeah, I walk outside, I can hear it, but when I go inside, it doesn't bother me. You know, if I go inside, I don't hear
Turn
it.
smoke up and still hear it.
And some of them say, I love sitting on my porch listening to the music, you know, so, but it's not, I don't think it's
Does
overbad.
anybody, including you, does anybody know what a reasonable number is for decibels? The number I've heard is 70. If it's below 70, most people don't mind. If it's above 70, it starts to get their attention.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It
Glenn.
used to be
Up here.
70 decibels is considered reasonable. Yes.
By a standard of some
It
sort.
was an industry standard when I was DJ. Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's like I said, that's one thing, and Cornelius said that during normal hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. At a business, they could do 85 to 90.
Yes.
So, but not during, after hours or whatever.
Maybe if we put something in about decibels and there's an argument for and against it, like Brad was talking about, we could do something that, just to let people know if you're getting above 70, we might come by and check on it or whatever, but not with the certified. We'll do it with a cell phone. I got one in that does it right here in the cell phone. So,
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
okay, thank you. But we'll work on it and get a
I think
little
your
bit.
decibel thing or your meter might come into play with a chronic situation. It ain't gonna be every call.
Ty, did you say you got your information, your parts from Guilford, Alamance, and Forsyth?
Right.
You might go with some of the local counties like Surrey, Rockingham, Yankton.
We'll look at those.
Would probably be more appropriate to Stokes than Forsyth and Alamance and Guilford.
Okay, anybody have anything else on that? We'll keep working on it. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the, where am I at here? Abandonment request for Shoebuckle Road. Amber, do you want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
I can briefly just talk on that. So we received a request for abandonment and closure of a portion of State Road 1912, which is Shoebuckle Road, and it's actually owned by the state of North Carolina and the Forestry Service, and it's surrounding like an educational forest. It goes through that. So they have actually requested that part of the road be abandoned. I gave it to Greg Hunsucker in GIS, and he wrote up this memo. Basically said that there's not a problem with it. It's all state of North Carolina land. It's approximately 0.30 miles, and part of it is a gravel road, but really the purpose of it is to prevent illegal activities that are happening down in there, because it's a dead end road from my understanding.
Is this the land they just bought?
I believe a part of it is, yes, yeah. But, and I know we normally have the public safety sheet that we post with all the signatures on it. And I had talked to Greg earlier today, and he hadn't got all the signatures back from the different department heads, but he did receive it from the majority of them, which would be communications, planning, and EMS. And they all said there was no problems with providing public safety service or public services here. So we hadn't heard back from the sheriff
Fire.
Or fire. There's the other two that we haven't heard back from, but the majority of them have signed off on them.
I think we need to wait until
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, the next step I will say is, following what we've done in the past, is to move this to action, where I'll talk to Ty, and we'll draft an intent to close the road, a resolution for intent to close, which if you end up approving that at the next meeting, then we'll call a public hearing and have that. And then we'll do a resolution for official closure of the road after that. So
Don't
there's a
expect
process.
any adjoining landowners. They're not applicable really here because the state owns it all, right?
Yeah, there's no adjoining, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. We'll have that intent thing at the next meeting then.
Yeah, we'll just put it on action.
Okay, for the next meeting. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
next item, we are, go to the action agenda. Next item is voluntary agricultural district board appointments. And we have Randall Patterson, David Ferguson that were nominated. Nobody else has applied when it was advertised. Do the board members have anybody else you want to nominate? Otherwise, we won't open the nominations. We'll just poll, right? That's all we need to do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll start with Commissioner Mendenhall.
Patterson and Ferguson.
Patterson and Ferguson. Patterson, Ferguson.
Patterson Ferguson.
Patterson Ferguson.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the resolution of or authorizing the donation of the Walnut Cove Lions Club of that caboose thing, right? So we just need, and they're going to take it from there once we do that.
Yes, sir.
Do what they
Yeah,
need
they'll
to do
handle
with
it from there. We're donating it to the nonprofit.
Okay, so get a motion to approve that resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. And then the last item we added to the agenda is resignation of Commissioner Mendenhall from the Stokes Partnership Board, I think.
Yes, sir. Just to make that very brief,
Okay,
I currently have been serving on I serve on the Preside Tech Board of Trustees, and I'm on the Impact Committee, which is the main committee at Preside Tech. We work in conjunction with the Executive Committee, and I was on Partnership of Children for the last 11 years, 4 years as superintendent, and then 7 years as commissioner. And hopefully I was going to be able to finish that out. I had a checkup with both of my cardiologists recently. My last echocardiogram unfortunately didn't come up any at all. They tried 2 different medications, so just to make a long story short, they felt like I needed to give up at least one of my subcommittees. My heart efficiency was still at 25% on my last check.
okay,
And it didn't go up at all. And so they have given me a different medication now, trying another one. So I'm asking for the board's approval to let me get off of that committee.
okay, and then we'll need to appoint somebody else, right?
Assume so, yes.
So you'll take care of that, and after we let him off, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would assume it would need to be another commissioner.
Well, I know I've done it for
Yeah.
every year I've been here, so.
I mean, you're the only commissioner, right, on that Stokes Partnership for Children.
Yes,
Is that per their bylaws, do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay, we can check
We
on
can
that
check into
and check and see. Okay, do we need to take action to approve that tonight? Then we can make a motion to accept the resignation.
Yeah.
Commissioner Mendenhall. Okay. Okay, any further discussion?
Motion.
Did you make it?
I'll make a motion, we accept the resignation.
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we need to go into closed session. Amber, if you would read the rationale for closed session.
to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3, and to consider the initial employment or appointment of an individual to any office or position other than a vacancy in the Board of County Commissioners or any other public body, or to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, and fitness of any public officer or employee other than a member of the Board of Commissioners or of some other public body pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A6.
Okay, get a motion going to closed session.
Make a motion, we go into close.
Second.
Any discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, okay, we'll go
Can we
into
get like
closed
3
session.
minutes?
Yeah, let's take
Are we in open yet?
We're open.
One second.
We're about in open.
Okay.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?